Today, we will talk about responsibility and responsibilities. Um, there, there's the idea around who is responsible for what, along with in terms of when talking about a job. There's the there's the question about well, okay. So when talking about responsibilities, there is the we'll keep it, at least for right now, talking about profession and like your job. Uh there's the responsibilities that are outlined within the role that you have, the job that you were hired for. Then in my mind, there's the additional roles and responsibilities or things that you bring as an individual where like let's say that one of the responsibilities is, I mean, we'll just go with a lot of the QA roles where it's uh the creation and execution of test cases. Um, that is something that you're responsible for, obviously, because it was outlined in your job description. But then there's the elements that you bring where you might also then have a responsibility to the care that you have for the product that you are building. Like for me personally, I care deeply about what is being built, how it's being built. Um, so I bring a responsibility to myself and to the business to both align with, what are their wants, but also I bring my own uh internal sense of what quality is and whether or not things are being done in a way that could be improved. Obviously, there's a potential where if you just sort of go off uh, out and start just like trying to change everything, or if you start doing things without working through the system that exists wherever you are, like that can potentially lead to a lack of adoption for those things that you think would benefit. So being able to build up that um, rapport with a team or whatever team you're working with or whoever you're working with, building up a reputation with them or building up an understanding between you so that they can understand where you're coming from, being able to create that uh, human connection so that you can communicate your thoughts as to how something could be done better. If I mean, obviously, if you have numbers, especially around like cost and whatnot, like that can help give more weight to what you're trying to communicate. Obviously, if you're just saying, hey, this doesn't work well, or hey, this is quote unquote bad, that's not going to be as digestible as if you say, hey, this thing that we do uh, could potentially, make customers not want to use this product. And so we could lose out on various opportunities or lose out on just money. So that can provide a little extra weight to what you're saying. But in terms of like the responsibilities you have, you are responsible to the job description, you're responsible to yourself, you're responsible to the business needs, wants, desires. And so there's a back and forth that you can play where you're like, this is important to what I'm supposed to be doing, so I'll do it. And then as time goes on, I can be able to communicate maybe a better way of doing something that might take that responsibility off of a particular person. Because I mean, at the end of the day, we're all responsible for the way we behave and interact, and so it's important to understand that and understand where we're all coming from to be able to better interact. But going to the like responsibilities within a job description, I mean, sometimes those can be um misguided in terms of like how they were created, because maybe they were created by somebody who doesn't understand the job, or maybe they're much more encompassing, or written in a way that could be interpreted different ways. And so making sure that you get clarity on that, because you don't want to go into a job and be told like, hey, you're supposed to be doing this, when the way you read it was not that thing, and that now adds a significant uh amount of extra work onto you that you then need to communicate to um your manager or whoever, uh to where you can say, hey, this is in my responsibilities, but to do this means that I'm either unable to do X, Y, or Z, or I am unable to uh, do those things to the same level of quality as we would want. And so being able to communicate all that is then important, so that we can then get to the point where you properly set expectations on those responsibilities. But in the roles that I've had, at least the last few, like last three positions I've held, um, there has definitely been a much larger internal sense of responsibility to myself and to quality as a whole, where I'm going to be much more likely to push back on areas, and or at least document somewhere of like, hey, we're doing this thing. I think one of the common instances is like team dynamics or team process. I think there's a lot of instances where uh the way something is done can be improved. And so being able to provide that insight to say, hey, this is how we're currently doing it, and these are the issues that we're currently encountering. And I guess that's more of like a overall sense of universal quality that I try to bring to wherever I personally am, where if something can be improved, then, well, if something can be improved, then it's at least on the table to discuss, to say, hey, we aren't doing this thing that would help us, you know, get pushed towards a more desirable outcome, to avoid confusions or to avoid instances where um, things happen that shouldn't have happened, or things aren't happening, or things then don't happen uh, that we don't want to happen. So responsibilities are both internal, external. There's varying degrees of the responsibilities in terms of like hard responsibilities, which are effectively like non negotiable. And then there's much softer responsibilities, which are sort of opt into of like, I can do this, so I will take that on, versus something saying you have to do this.